First up, our top story. Well, in its bid to control the spread of misinformation and erroneous facts on social media platforms, India's Ministry for Information and Technology has granted 2 powers to the Press Information Bureau. The government has passed a rule that any news against the central government pegged as fake by the PIB has to be taken down by the respective platforms, or they would end up losing their safe harbour immunity. The safe harbour immunity protects popular social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram and Twitter from any criminal liability arising from the posting of such information. The latest rule, which was actually introduced as an amendment to the IT rule in 2021, had generated significant controversy at the time, with media support groups cautioning against muzzling of the press. However, the Minister of State and IT and Electronics, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, has clarified that the idea behind implementing the new amendment was not to censor the media, and anyone who felt otherwise was free to carry the PIB flagged fake news as well.
It is not censoring at all, because what the IT rules do is to say that if you are a social media intermediary, you have 2 choices. You can either follow what the fact-checking unit is doing and take down the content, or you can continue to have the content, but then the safe harbor and the protection that you enjoy today, or the immunity that you enjoy from anybody agreed filing a case against you, will drop.
But if such news is carried on social media platforms, they will end up losing their safe harbour immunity. In recent times, India has witnessed a spike in fake and misleading news that has even led to cases of violence. The government has been looking at ways to curb the spread of misinformation that could cause imminent harm. Countries like Germany, Russia, France, Malaysia, Australia are among the nations that have implemented rules and strict penalties against institutionalized fake news. Well, joining us now for more on this is Vikas Pathak, who is a senior journalist, columnist and a member of the faculty at Asian College of Journalism. Vikas Pathak, thanks very much indeed for talking to us this evening. Now, Mr. Pathak, with so many, levels at which fake news has been decimated, there needs to be some kind of fact-checking obviously in place. How do you see the new IT rules by the Indian government? Do you feel they amount to censorship?
The question is a very complex one, because first of all, all our laws and rules have to be sensitive to the fact that we are living in a very different world in the last 10 years. With the coming of the social media and the fact that, some people may be quite old, though educated, and do not understand the social media. Many are not educated enough. So what is happening now is that this dividing line between truth and falsehood, the way a person can identify them, has become extremely blurry. So there are several repercussions of it. One, of course, is that democratically speaking, it's not very good, because democracy can best when information that comes out to the citizen is information that is credible. But in the case of the social media, you can have videos, you can have a number of things, claims that cannot be verified by most people, and therefore the very raw material of ideas on which citizenship is to be based in terms of being enlightened gets completely distorted. So first of all, we are staring at a very new animal for the last 10 years or so, and something needs to be done about it for the sake of democracy, for the sake of better social harmony. There can be riots that can be by social media, there can be lynchings as a result of the social media messages that are being disseminated. So all that is very important. Now, the second question is, what is the agency that should do it? In fact, the European Union has clearly wanted these social media sites to actually combat disinformation. But as per reports, the compliance levels have been not very impressive at all. So the question is, ideally speaking, it should be the sites themselves that should comply and should play the watchdog to misleading information or provocative information and should do something about it. Now, since that is not happening, what then is the agency? Of course, legally speaking, it is the government that can do it, but that comes with a certain flip side because after all, we've been accustomed to expression, the free expression of people being permitted in a democracy, irrespective of whether the government likes it or not. Of course, in our constitution, we have reasonable restrictions in place. We do not have absolute freedom of speech. So freedom of speech as an idea has changed a lot. Look, the point is that in the days of newspapers, when there was no social media, the editors played the watchdog. You knew exactly whom to contact or whom to take to court in case something provocative or defamatory or whatever was published. That apart, there were people who could maybe deliver a speech in public that could be identified. Now, we don't, half the time, we don't know the source of the information.
Absolutely. Certainly.
So, the government has the legal power to intervene, but then the flip side of that is that, let me tell you very clearly, the government has said that, you take down misleading information about the central government. Now the question is, okay, central government is an institutional entity in India, but central governments come out of elections and political parties contest elections. My only worry would be that if there are multiple political parties in India, one political party is running the government, it can have that shield. It can ask these platforms to take down the information. If they fail to comply, they can be hauled in court.
Absolutely.
But what about parties? Is there anything that can be done to stop the flow of disinformation against opposition parties or leaders? That is one area that I'd be slightly concerned about.
Right, of course. Mr. Pathak, thanks very much indeed for joining us with that. And of course, social media companies have recently submitted a proposal for regulating fake news, and the government is yet to respond to that. So we will have to wait and watch the space for more. Thanks for that.